Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. I hope you're having a great day and I hope this video can make it a little bit better. Now this video will be a little bit different than most of my videos. I'm just wanting to have a bit more of a discussion with you, and so there won't be too much happening on the screen. This will be more of like a podcast episode, so feel free to put this on in the background while you maybe go do your daily or weekly adventures. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the epic relics. We've had them for a little while now, and I think we've gotten all of the different systems that will let us earn them faster. So I think it's going to be a good time to discuss them. Now, for myself, if we go and take a look at the relics, I do have 4 of them here. So 4 epic relics, been able to play around with these, test them out on a bunch of different champions. I'm still testing them out more on different champions, but I've actually been very impressed with them so far. Now, there are still a good amount down here that I don't have. I'm not even at halfway yet, but I have a pretty good understanding of these. And so I just want to discuss the situations where we were maybe wrong about epic relics when we first saw them, and then some situations where we were maybe correct. Up first though, let's talk about the epic relic acquisition. So when they first were introduced, the only way to get them was through Stardust, and Stardust was pretty limited to just any duplicates you got for relics or champion fragments. So the acquisition was pretty bad when we first got them, and it was going to take a very long time to get any of these epic relics. Now I understand that Riot wanted to put them in so players could see them before putting in all the resources to actually get them. Now I think in hindsight that probably wasn't the best idea, since that just panicked all the players, but you can understand the thought behind it. They wanted to try to get these somewhat in the players' hands, even if all the systems weren't there to quite be able to get them. Now though, they added the new legend levels, giving us all of these gold and platinum vaults. Now, if you are someone like me that already has all the champions leveled and maxed out, all of these gold vaults are just giving you extra amounts of Stardust. Also, because it's the 30,000 XP for all of these, it only takes about 2 weeks to unlock one of these vaults, which is pretty good progress. And then at the 40 and 50 marker, they actually have gold reliquaries in these legend levels. So we will be able to earn these just by doing all of our daily and weekly quests, getting all those legend XP, and this won't actually take too long to do. So that right there, all of these extra vaults that could potentially just have a whole bunch of Stardust in them because of all duplicates, and then just having gold vaults already in here, very good, really helping that acquisition rate. Next, let's talk about the monthly challenges. I'm going to throw up on screen the rewards you get from those monthly challenges. So as you can see here, if you get all 70 wins, you get 100 Aurelian Soul fragments. Now they have already confirmed that if you are maxed out on Aurelian Soul, these fragments are going to be converted into Stardust. And that they have said, or at least kind of speculated, that the Aurelian Soul challenge will be going on for several months, potentially around 5, or like a minimum of 5 is what we've heard thrown around. And now that's not confirmed, but that should be a good approximation. So if you're someone that does have a maxed out account or getting somewhat close to that, and you're able to clear these monthly challenges, you'll be able to get a good amount of Stardust from these. So if you have Aurelian Soul maxed out, you'll then get 1,000 Stardust because all of those fragments getting converted. But then in these rewards, there's also up to 5 silver reliquaries. So that's potentially another 500 Stardust right there. So if you're able to fully clear the monthly challenges, you'll be able to get 1,500 Stardust just from that, which is then halfway towards a golden reliquary, so another epic relic. And then from all the weekly quests and weekly adventures you get, you're able to get more than another 1,500 every month. So every single month you're getting more Stardust than you need to get at least 1 golden reliquary. So you can get 1 golden reliquary every single month. Now again, there is that massive caveat that this is for players that have more of maxed out accounts. Now that's actually by design. The monthly challenges and even the epic relics were more designed for players with those larger accounts. For the monthly challenges, they wanted to give people that have been playing for a long time and had a very large roster reasons to play their maxed out champions. Path of Champions is a very reward-centric game. You don't really play people if you don't have a reward for doing so. And so once you have a champion fully maxed out, quite often you don't play them anymore because you want to make progress on another champion. So the monthly challenges are a way to push you towards using your full roster and reward players for having a large roster. So if you're someone that's just starting out in the game, then yes, the monthly challenges will be pretty difficult for you, but that's kind of by design. The same with the epic relics. If you don't have a maxed out account, then yes, your Stardust acquisition will be much slower. If you're a new player though, you have your different adventure rewards you're able to still work on completing. You can still work on completing all of your chapter quests, and you generally are going to have a lot more content that you can try to play through. If you are a maxed out player, as far as rewards, all you really get are the weekly adventures, your daily quests, and your weekly quests. That's kind of all you have to do. So Riot adding some content in the game that is focused more for endgame players is actually very appreciated, and if you are a newer player, this can be content that you can strive for and look forward to completing as you work on maxing out your account. One last point about the acquisition of Stardust before we move on, and that is the wild fragments. Please, if you have extra wild fragments, let them be converted into Stardust. There are people like me that have fully maxed out accounts, and so we have nothing to spend our wild fragments on until they release new champions. Also, before anyone asks, I know I always get comments about this, the way I got to the wild fragments is I was at 53, and then Riot gave me 20 more as compensation for all the issues I had with my event pass. They were initially going to give me event pass rewards or XP or something like that, but I'd already grinded through all of it as soon as they fixed the first bug with it. So they gave me 20 wild fragments, which is how I am at this cap. Anyways, let's get back to the main point here. Please, if we're at the cap, convert the extra wild fragments into Stardust. It's really sad that I keep doing the daily quest because I want that legend XP, but all of those wild fragments are just wasted on me. I understand that you don't want people to hoard wild fragments and not spend them on their champions, so I don't know if you need to add a caveat to your code where this only works if they have nothing to spend the wild fragments on or something, but please look into that, try to fix that if you can. I know there's other players as well that are in the same boat, that all of the wild fragments we get from dailies are just a total waste and we have nothing to spend our wild fragments on. So please, if possible, if any Riot employees are watching, either convert the excess wild fragments into Stardust so that our daily quests are no longer wasted, or just add more champions so that we don't get to the point where we're capped for like 3 months. With that out of the way though, let's move on with our discussion. Alright, so we've spent a good amount of time talking about the acquisition of Stardust and how you might get these epic relics. Let's actually go and talk a little bit more about the epic relics themselves. So taking a look at Thresh here, who I was able to put a epic relic slot on, you can see these are all the epic relics I do have currently, and there's still a good amount down here that I don't have. Now, epic relics are definitely not what some players expected. They wanted the epic relics to be absolutely broken and just giving you a massive amount of power. That's not really the case here. They can be very, very strong, but many of them are actually influencing how you play. It's not just put this on and you're going to play the exact same way, you're just going to be way stronger. Most of them are giving you a very different play style, which is actually quite nice. Also, since most of these relics aren't completely straightforward, you actually need to take the time to try to figure out, hey, who could this work best on? Now, theory crafting and build crafting is actually a pretty important part of Path of Champions, and it's what many players really like about the game, myself included. So these relics being a bit more of a puzzle that you're trying to figure out is actually quite enjoyable, because when you find a champion that works on it, you are very excited, and it normally makes you feel much stronger. Also, another amazing design point for these relics is many of them work best on the weaker champions. So they really help elevate them and reduce the gap in power between like the S tier and the F tier champions. So like this Disciple of Shadows right here, this works amazing for Thresh and Poro King, and also works pretty well for Nasus. All of those champions are on the weaker side, some of the weakest champions in the game really, but this epic relic really elevates them, especially Thresh and Poro King, and makes them feel much stronger, which is great because beforehand, especially like Thresh, most people didn't play him at all, and if people got fragments for him, many of them just considered it a waste. But here, if you have that epic relic, now you're excited to have your Thresh because you know he can be so much better with this relic. Somewhat the same here with the Packed Powder. So I still need to test this out on a couple more champions, but the ones I have tested this out on, Misfortune and Gnar, both are more mid-tier champions, but this is still helping to elevate them to feel much stronger and contend with some of those higher tier champions. Now it's not an amazingly broken amount of power you're getting, but this is helping, and it's really more powerful than almost any other relic you could put in that slot. So again, helping those mid and low tier champions feel much stronger is a absolutely amazing design choice. In many situations, I actually haven't put most of these epic relics on my higher tier champions. For one, they don't really need the extra power, but then two, most of them fit better on these weaker champions. And I feel like that was a conscious design choice by the developers, and I think it was very well done. Now, I will say some of the epic relics are potentially a little bit too niche. Found Fortune is okay, only really works well on a very limited number of champions. So I think it would be potentially a good idea to give this a bit of a buff. Maybe make it a summon effect so it can trigger more than once. And then with some of the other epic relics, such as Death's Foil, they could use a little bit more tuning. Now, obviously, I haven't been able to test this one out yet, but I think there's very limited use cases for this. If this buff maybe lasted for the entire round once they attacked, it would be much better in a lot of different ways you could try to play around with it. Still would be fairly niche, but still worth using. I think in general, most of the epic relics are actually better designed than most players were getting the devs credit for. Once I actually was able to get my hands on and play with many of these epic relics, I really enjoyed them. But I do think the power between the different epic relics is pretty broad, and there is an issue right now where people are opening up their golden reliquaries and just being very disappointed with what they got. Now, people are definitely going to have favorites when it comes to epic relics, or just, well, favorites with anything. But I think with the epic relics, when you get one, you should still be excited even if it wasn't the one you were hoping for. Whereas with many of these, people are just really disappointed and never really going to use the epic relics. So if any of you riders are watching, please look at some of the underperforming ones and just try to give them small buffs to make them feel a little bit more comparable to some of the better epic relics. In general though, I just want to praise the design team at Riot for these epic relics. In general, I think they are very fun to use. They elevate many of the weaker or mid-tier champions, which is wonderful. And they actually take some theory crafting and some experimentation to really find what champion works best on these, which I find to again be a very enjoyable experience. One last note though, before we finish up on the discussion with these epic relics, that is the consumable. I can't actually show it here because I'm out of them. I guess let's head over to the Emporium and take a look at those. All right, here in the Emporium, pretty funny that I have two Luden's Tempest here. Also, I feel like I've been offered this card back like a dozen times. But down here, we have the consumable. So you have to use this on your champion to be able to give them the epic relic slot. I understand that they are trying to have some amount of scarcity with the epic relics and these consumables, so that one, they matter more in players' minds, and that they're more of a big deal and a big moment when you're able to use them. But I feel like this kind of conflicts with their design of the epic relics. I think this would have worked better if you went for the design with epic relics where they're just kind of brokenly overpowered that a lot of people expected, but they haven't gone with that design. They've gone for some very powerful effects, but ones you really need to play around, and not effects that are just going to blatantly win you the game. They're definitely not as powerful as most people expected. And that's okay as a design choice. The issue is, with those relics, a large amount is experimentation, trying them out on different champions and finding out what works best. Needing the consumable kind of fights that mentality. Now, it does really make you stop and consider who you actually want to put the epic relics on, but I feel like it does fight the design choice they went with their epic relics, since it's limiting the amount of experimentation. Now, I will say the good thing is they did dramatically reduce the price of these. I think 100 Stardust is going to be the normal price going forward, which isn't too bad. So I will say thank you for doing that. That does help the situation a lot, but I'm still not thrilled about these consumables personally. All right, that is it for our discussion of these epic relics though. Please comment down below what you think of the epic relics. I know many of you will probably disagree with me. Many people wanted these epic relics to just be far more powerful, but I think Riot actually deserves our praise and credit for a job well done. Earning epic relics now is not too difficult. I think the rewards we're getting from the monthly challenges, from the legend levels, in addition to our normal weekly rewards, is actually quite well balanced, and the ability to earn at least one epic relic every single month is very well done. Also, in general, the design for most of the epic relics are very fun and interesting, really rewarding experimentation and theory crafting, and also helping to elevate many of those weaker champions to feel much powerful. So they're not really a dead champion you never want to touch anymore, but they actually have much more reason to play those champions. In my opinion, that is the best element of these epic relics and really what inspired me to make this video. But I will agree that some of the epic relics are a little bit too niche and could use some slight balance to just make them a little bit more approachable. If possible, Riot, I think that would be very appreciated by many of the players. In general though, well done. Again though, I want to hear from all of you. Put your comments down below on what you think of the epic relics, on what areas you think Riot really nailed it and got it right, and maybe what areas you think you have issues with. Riot says they want feedback, let's give it to them. Again, please though, be respectful and try to be constructive with any criticism you give. All right, that's it from me. I hope you all have a great day.